What's up there, Metal Summoners? It is so great to see you guys, as always, kicking off your weekend in the middle of the week, just like we like to do, having a great time, and happy hump day to everybody. As always, this is your Island of Misfit Toys. It's myself and Angel with our Ghostly, the Psycho Steve, rocking out in the background, you know, taking care of his family. We always love to show lots of love to Steve because he's, as you guys know, always very involved in this show. We really appreciate you guys first and foremost, of course, as always, because you keep this show going. You guys show so much love, so much support to the bands. It allows us to have great interviews and great conversations and know all about the bands and where they're going and what music they have coming out. And now, that being said, this is going to be a whole lot of fun because not only is it going to be great conversation like it always is, we've got a Massachusetts brethren of mine joining us. We've got the Bulldog. We've got Josh from Dead Man's Trigger joining us tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun, man. Josh, first and foremost, thank you so much for some time this evening and welcome to the Metal Summit, my friend.
Hey, man, glad to be on here and thanks for having me for sure. Always loving to connect and network and all that fun shit. So happy to be here.
Of course, man, for sure. And we were talking just briefly off the air, man. Like, dude, I love your guys' concept for like artwork and what you did. Your most recent T-shirt, like I said, is so sick. You guys, for any of you Metal Summoners who haven't been to their Facebook page, go and check it out. Shad, thanks for the bitchin' interview, dude. Shout out to the Mad Shad channel who's watching us right now, Josh, on YouTube. He's the guy who made our intro, and he also did the vocals on it. So
right on, cool.
Thank you so much, Shad. We appreciate you, bro. But yeah, man, I mean, any of you Metal Summoners that haven't been to Dead Man's Trigger's Facebook page, you can see their new design as the backdrop there. But also, if anybody saw our guest announcement, which we know you guys did, I mean, awesome, just like, you know, Plague Doctor and all that cool stuff. So, Josh, man, love the fact that you guys delve into the macabre.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're a group right now. There's 4 of us. We started off as a 5-piece. But we all have different tastes in metal and different backgrounds in our careers and whatnot. My vocalist Adam Sloan is formerly from End Time Illusion. I don't know if you guys have heard of them or not, but Dave Sharper's guitar player is on tour with Cro-Mags right now. So shout out to Dave and send some love on tour in that way. But yeah, essentially Adam and I started Dead Man's Trigger as kind of a recording side project originally when we were in between bands. My original metal band that I started out with, Fuel of War, we were kind of like a metalcore outfit. And I was in that band for almost 15 years. I started playing with them. I started that band probably 2009, and then we just hung it up in 2020. So the demo that we've got on Spotify was actually recorded, believe it or not, in 2013.
Oh, wow.
With very little gear. I did the best I could. I polished the turd as much as I could, as I like to say. But yeah, that was kind of the beginning of it. And so we've been actually playing those songs out, you know, in general for a set. And we've got at least 4 new ones on the way this summer. I'm going to be releasing hopefully a single by August. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Absolutely, for sure, man, and definitely let us know about that too, because we love to share and plug, and like you said, network, man. So we definitely want to aid in any way that we can to the continued success for Dead Man's Trigger. Where did
Much
the name?
appreciated.
Of course, man. Where did the name come from?
Believe it or not, we actually pulled Black Sabbath, and we started out writing songs, and the second track that we came out with was Dead Man's Trigger, because we were talking about like a lot of, I guess you could say like truth movement shit, a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. We talk about in a lot of music stuff. So the second track was Dead Man's Trigger, and I'm like, we had a hell of a time trying to come up with a band name. I'm like, dude, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So we pulled a Sabbath and did a Dead Man's Trigger song that kind of sums up what the band's about too. So that worked out in general.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of where it came from.
Right on, man. And before I kick it up to Angel, being that we're both Massachusetts guys, I love to get like your own take on it as well. Like, how is the metal scene up in Massachusetts? So I go back a couple of times a year whenever I'm able, because I'm originally from Salem. I'm incredibly attached to Salem, and so I go there a few times a year. And I was there 2 weeks ago for an event. But how is the metal scene up there? Because I have not been up there in a while for an actual show.
There is a shit ton of talent in New England, a lot of untapped potential, a lot of, I would say, success kind of hindered by poverty. I know I'm definitely an example of that. I've been at this since, like I said, 2009. I've been playing guitar since I was 10. I'm 36 now. So, I mean, it's been kind of a roller coaster, I'd say, from when I started till now. It was pretty hot in the, I'd say, 2010 to 2014, and then it kind of slumped down a little bit. I mean, you got your constant national acts coming through and whatnot, but as far as us regional guys, COVID obviously had a big to do with everything, and
For sure.
I also book shows, as you can tell. I don't think you can read that. Speed Demon Promotions.
Oh yeah. I remember.
So I book shows throughout New England as well for unsigned bands, and the one thing I've noticed the most is that unfortunately some of the newer bands that are coming out now don't have that old school background when it comes to networking and doing your quote unquote homework and creating a draw. A lot of these guys, book shows and they'll show up with one or two people, but that's it.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of suffering in general from lower attendance just because of what the economy is. And, like I said, COVID, you still have some stragglers that are still kind of paranoid and shit.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's on its way back. I think it's definitely headed in a good direction. And I'm doing the best I can in the long run, not only for my own career, but trying to make it so that everybody around here can win to some extent.
Yeah.
Because, the biggest thing that I'm noticing now is, we'll have, say, a $200 to $300 door at the end of the night, and we don't have bands sticking around bothering to get paid because they're not expecting it.
Right.
But, the only time I ever take a cut is if nobody sticks around for getting paid. But I purposely, aside from paying fees for the venue, all that money goes directly to the bands with Speed Demon Promotions. That's our number one policy. We take care of the bands first. So, there's been a history of great promoters and not so great promoters over the years, and solid deals and some shady shit. But that's like anything in the business. I mean, whether you're playing the Sunset Strip or someplace in Worcester, Mass, it's all the same shit.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool indie labels coming out in the area. I'm hoping to take my company to that level as well in the
Nice.
near future. So, I'm trying to not exactly leave my own legacy, but leave something behind to keep it going. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, for sure, Josh, and that's great to know. Because I've got your email now, Angel. I'll
Yep.
send it over to you as well. Because like we all the time will get like friends on like our Facebook pages and stuff like that who will say, hey, does anybody know we're looking to book a tour? Does anybody know people that book shows in these like areas? And literally up until this conversation, I really didn't have anybody in New England that I could steer bands to if they're looking to do shows up there. So that's
Yeah, I mean that's what I've been doing. I just started working because Dead Man's Trigger got signed to Curtain Call Records out of Florida. They're tied in with Rage Rock Radio
Mhm.
and Rock Rage Radio, excuse me. Um, and so I've been helping the label out and also booking, what I can for out of state bands or out of the area for anything I can throw them on around here. But the problem is a lot of promotions are small, but they don't always communicate with everybody. So I'm trying to foster more of a cohesive community with other promoters in the area
nice.
and do more cross brand and co-sharing of what we do for shows and whatnot, rather than making it a competition. I mean, you got a good amount of people that, yeah, you're trying to make a living and whatnot, but the only way that it's going to last is if we're all looking out for each other.
Yeah. No,
And I think a
absolutely.
lot of people lose sight of that.
I definitely agree for sure. And we love Curtain Call. Curtain Call has been very, very good to us. I'm literally, when it comes to Curtain Call, I'm Robin to Angel's Batman. He's got like the great relationship with Curtain Call Records. They've been very good to us with the bands that they've said to us. Shad just chimed in on YouTube that he's interviewed a bunch of Curtain Call bands as well. So we definitely have a lot of love for Curtain Call Records for sure. Angel,
No, they've
take
been great to us, and right now we're just kind of scratching the surface of what we're going to be able to do together as a unit. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to the future.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much what the New England scene has turned into at this point. I think you know it's just going to take time and it's going to take persistence. And I think as long as people put their egos aside and try to think of the scene as a big picture thing, we're all going to win at the end of the day. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Absolutely. I've known Michelle from Rock Rage Radio for a very, very long time. She's good people as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Right up to you, Angel.
Hey, just want to say thank you so much for your time, Josh. Definitely just want to make a quick comment. If this fall you ever have a show like in October, November, and you need a host,
Oh hell yeah! And we got a Speed Demons got a Halloween show at the Raven in Worcester, Massachusetts on Halloween. So if you can make it down or up or whichever direction it would be from you, I'd be happy to have you.
well, look, I'm always looking to get the hell out of Jersey because it's fucking boring.
Oh yeah, fuck Jersey.
Besides the Turnpike and the Garden State Parkway, it's fucking boring. So,
Yeah, how's the scene down there?
I live in Jersey. The scene is, I mean, it's getting up there.
Mm,
I mean, we kind of have a venue that still does a lot of shows, which is a good thing.
yeah,
But again, it's almost like because you're close to New York, you're competing a lot with entertainment dollars because there's
yeah,
much to do. Where if you go up to like let's say up to the Northeast, the Midwest, where people don't have are kind of limited with options, they're more likely to kind of support
yeah.
bands. Uh, but I've just read an article recently that simply said about the future of rock music, and it said, "Oh, it'll probably be Avatar and stuff." And I'm like, "That's bullshit. It's got to be rock bands."
Yeah.
Nobody said in the '70s the future of rock was gonna be fucking avatars. But people have to like kind of like what you mentioned. People want people say, "Oh, book this band, book that band." It's easy for you as a promoter to do that, but people got to show up.
Yeah.
So bring a friend. That's why I said I would definitely love to come up there to actually host a show. And
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
And we'll definitely be more than happy to promote it because Jay and I and Steve, we're like media whores. That's all we fucking do.
Yeah, I'm a shameless self-promoter, admittedly, too, so I get it.
Yeah, we promote the show. We knock on doors
Yep.
the same way politicians do.
We
Yep.
kick doors in, Angel.
Nice.
Come to the show.
Fuck yeah.
I'll give you a free hug. I'll give you a free massage. No, not a free massage.
No handies there at halftime now.
Angel will be more than happy to check the bras of any big titty ladies.
Yeah, I'm married now, so those days are over.
That got me in trouble at Master.
But I still appreciate looking at them anyway.
For sure.
Sex still sells, and if it makes me money, I'm down.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, booty shorts, merch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got thongs and bikinis and G-strings available. Dead Man's Trigger, you name it, we got it.
Nice.
Yep. All good stuff.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
If you come up with like that sexy, catchy song title, just use that as booty shorts to promote.
There you go. I like the way you think.
Yeah, we think alike.
Good stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, we've so that's the promoter hat, no pun intended, that I wear a good amount of time. But as far as my own career is concerned, with Dead Man's Trigger specifically, I'm taking it as far as I can go. Like I said, I'm 36 now. Obviously, being a disabled guy in a metal band is a pretty rare commodity. So I'm trying to take that and get as much eyeballs on it as I can to, spread a good message to people and offer some perspective in this shit-tastic world we're living in.
Yeah, but Josh, definitely kudos to you that you're not letting nothing stop you. I work as a job coach with people with disabilities.
Okay.
So that's my day job. So, kudos to what you're doing with not letting it stop you.
Yeah.
I guess my first question to you is, what made you go from being a musician to being a musician promoter?
It was kind of a hand-in-hand thing when I first started playing shows. I learned very quickly what to look out for, and I just said, well, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. So
Yeah.
I learned from people around me that have been in it for a long time and just kind of took the good parts of that and tried to emulate more of a community type of situation. And so far, I mean, I started that literally a year after I started playing out. And it's on a whole new life of its own now. We got a recording studio. We're going to start recording other bands that we work with. So I have production experience as well. So I kind of just grabbed the bull by the balls and took off.
Bro, that's freaking awesome. You just gave me another idea. If you're recording that day, look, I'm used to booking hotels. They know me by now. So I definitely don't mind, doing like an interview from like the studio.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
To do where they used to interview bands while they're like in a studio recording.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to do one of those type of interviews. So
yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch.
Oh yeah, that's me just kind of getting ideas on getting the hell out of Jersey to get up to New England. Because I love New England in the fall.
Yeah,
in
the fall it ain't too bad. Winter's a pain in the ass, but fall's okay. I'm a summer guy myself.
I'm a winter guy, so with the snow, yeah.
Nice.
Uh,
So yeah, I mean, we're just kind of plugging along and doing what we can, man.
when it comes to the songwriting, do you ever road test the songs for an audience, and is that like a deciding factor on does the song go does the song get released and recorded, or does it get shelved?
I think, you know, nothing that I put a stamp on is anything I wouldn't put out in public. So I think that if I'm spending the time, I'm going to put it out there. If it's not any good, it's not even going to make it past pre-production anyway.
Oh,
That's kind of how I do things anyway. But from a creative standpoint, you know, I'm carrying a good amount of the load when it comes to song structure and things like that, and riffs and whatnot. But lyrically and whatnot, that's all Adam for the most part. I only wrote lyrics for one song on the first record, and that was Painkiller Nightmare. You can find that on YouTube. I also did the little lyric videos for this album too.
I
But
love
say that again.
I love the title of the song. How did you come up with the title of the song?
Believe it or not, it was kind of a real life experience. When I was a kid, I was in the hospital quite a bit. I had a lot of surgeries to kind of straighten my bones and reinforce them because I have a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is essentially osteoporosis, but from birth.
Right.
So I was breaking a lot of bones. I had 14 fractures in utero, and they broke my collarbone, taking me out. So I had it rough from day one, and I just sat here to the world, be like, "You can't fucking take me down, dude." And that's kind of why I found myself so attached to heavy metal and what it stands for. And you know, I grew up on a farm, so my original roots musically were, you know, country and blues and classic rock and stuff like that. But I tell you, man, when I found Pantera in high school, that was it.
Nice.
That was fucking it. Metallica and Pantera and AC/DC are probably the top three bands that changed my life forever. And it's made a hell of a career for me so far. I mean, I'm still broke as all hell, but I love what I do.
Is that a Dimebag style guitar that you're playing in those photos?
Yes, sir. It's that's a Boylan guitar. It's a kind of a combination design between the ML and the original Stealth that Dime used when he was playing with Washburn. I have a diamond plate one as well. That's actual real diamond plate. It's not like a sticker or anything like that. It's all legit. Um, I've had that guitar for a long time, and shout out to Boylan Guitars in Rhode Island. I'm endorsed with them, one of their only artists that they have any kind of endorsement deal with. Pat does amazing work, so definitely check those guys out.
Yeah.
They're out of Harrisville, Rhode Island. So shout out to those guys. And, you know, yeah, I initially my first metal guitar was a Dean Explorer because I fell in love with Hetfield's style and, you know, just the overall look that he had going back in the day. And then as my case gradually got heavier, you know, I found Pantera and, you know, Lamb of God and Killswitch and all those guys. And the funny part is now that I've been around long enough, like I, I'm fortunate enough to have relatively frequent small talk with each of those bands. Um, you know, I've had Jason from Shadows Fall on my podcast, John as well, from Anthrax, and the newest guy in the Mudvayne crew, Marcus, he was on my podcast, Bulldog Uncensored, back in last summer, I think it was now, almost.
Nice.
But yeah, so we're on a little bit of a hiatus doing that, but focusing on the band for now. But that was keeping me busy while I was waiting around for things to fall into place. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The guys that I looked up to now, I'm just shooting the shit with, sending memes randomly. It's nuts.
That's awesome, Josh. What do you think of Pantera now? Obviously, we don't have the Abbott, so of course there is that little bit of it's not real Pantera, but I think we've all understood that as well. But how? Do you, but what do you think of what they're doing with Zach and Charlie? Honestly, I'm down for the cause. Personally, I do. I've always said that me personally, I wish they wouldn't use the Pantera name just clean like they're doing.
Yeah,
I understand why. I really do. I'm a huge Misfits guy personally, and I like what they're doing where it's, hey, look, the original Misfits, Glenn, Jerry, with Doyle, Wolfgang von Frankenstein. You know, if you've seen those shows, which I'm sure you like, which I'm sure the posters, which I'm sure you have, that there is a small part of me that wishes it was kind of something more along the lines of like celebrating Pantera, you know, like featuring Charlie and Zach. Like that's something a little bit more clear. I don't personally, I mean, you know as well as me and Angel that metal fans, they're not dense like that. They kind of know, they're not stupid. We know what we're getting, but for clarity purposes, I prefer a little more transparency, but at the same time, I don't hate that they're using the logo clean. But what do you think of current Pantera?
Well, Dime and Zach are like, you know, two halves of the same coin for me. So I feel like he was the only one on planet Earth that was qualified to take that position in the first place.
I agree.
Yep.
I was fortunate briefly to meet Zach a few years ago. Didn't get to talk very long, but you know, he was very down to earth, very matter of fact. No bullshit. I didn't feel like he was trying to blow smoke up my ass just because I was in a chair or anything like that. He showed real respect. And so, you know, I've been a Black Label fan since day one. So Zach being in the position that he's in right now, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it makes any sense to, you know, there's been rumors about, you know, new material and shit like that. I don't think that would be right.
Sure.
I think Zach is well enough established. Black Label is a big enough powerhouse. He doesn't need to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, with respect to him and the rest of the guys in the band, I haven't had the pleasure to talk to Phil ever, but I think I would probably tell him the same thing. Be like, look, dude, you know, you're the voice, and unmistakably, that's just as important. But, you know, you can't slap a pair of bunny ears on a donkey and call it a rabbit.
Right.
You know, it just don't work like that. So, and I think he knows that too.
Yeah.
Zach's not an idiot. He's doing it out of love for Daryl and Vinny both.
Yep.
And, you know, I think they're probably just totally okay with the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think Daryl especially was like, you know, as long as I'm not being forgot about what I did and, you know, the fun I had and the love I gave to people, then I'm all for it, I think is how he would approach it. And I think a lot of people would say that.
I'm definitely with you on that. I think also the other reason why I always kind of like a little bit of transparency, even if it was Pantera, but like I said, saying, you know, featuring Zach Wild and Charlie Benante, that I kind of like, because yes, everybody knows, you know, Rex and Phil. I've met them both. Phil and I actually have a very good relationship. He and I are buddies. Not like texting style, you know, but like every time our paths cross, like we know each other. I've met Noah's wife, Katie. She's a doll. She's great. So we've always been very cool and just kind of very chummy. But even with Phil and Rex, they're not actually original members, which I think a lot of people forget about,
Yeah, that is true.
which is totally okay to forget about that, because I think it's safe to say that the common populace, of metal fans and Pantera fans, know Cowboys from Hell and After. You know,
Yeah.
they forget about Terry and stuff
Yeah.
like that, which is totally fine, because they were, a lot of people either don't know or have forgotten that Dimebag Daryl was Diamond Daryl
Mhm.
back in the previous days and stuff.
Yeah.
So, with the fact that it's, and again, I'm not splitting hairs for the sake of being a dick. It's because I like Phil. He's always been so good to me. I met Rex at a horror con. Very, very cordial, really, really good guy. So I have no qualms, you know. And like you said, I've met Zach. Zach is a doll. I met Charlie really just for the length of a cup of coffee. He was at a horror con too, and he was signing an Anthrax record of mine. But again, very, 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 very cool dude. But I would love just a little bit of transparency of, hey, we know we're not the guys. Where again, it's not about Phil and Rex. It was just simply more about Zach and Charlie. Where I like the fact that you're a little bit more honest with maybe the featuring. But again, it's not a big deal, because I'm happy that it's happening. I hope to get to actually see the band sometime soon. I haven't been able to see them yet, but I do think it's great, and I definitely look forward to hearing those songs sung by Phil and played by Rex, since I never saw Pantera as Pantera, and I never saw Damage Plan either. And Angel, I'm about to kick it back up to you, but as a final question for you, Josh, in this segment before Angel takes it away, were you a Damage Plan fan, or did you like them at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought, honestly, I mean, this may or may not be a popular thing, but I think after everything that happened after Daryl died, Hell Yeah was the best thing to come out of everything of
Oh
that.
no, I agree. I'm a huge Hell Yeah fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge Hell Yeah fan. Chad is probably my top 5 favorite singers of all time when it comes to metal.
Demons in the Dirt is still my favorite song.
Oh hell yeah! And just, other than guys like Texas Hippie Coalition, you don't see bands necessarily waving that flag anymore. There's not a lot of redneck metal out there anymore, and even I kind of miss doing that. Like my first band had a little touch of that. It was a little bit less trashy in the beginning, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good thing that kids nowadays are at least knowing about the band in some way, shape, or form. And I think it gives an opportunity for people to go back and realize just how big they were and how influential they were, not only in music, but I think on humanity as well.
Absolutely. No, 100% for sure. Angel, go ahead and take it away there, my friend. And shout out to Shad, Amy, Lisa. We see you guys. Thank you for being involved. Don't be afraid to ask Josh questions. You guys are always very involved. Anything you want to pump into the comments, we will see them and we will ask him for sure. Angel, it's all you, my guy.
When it comes to the songwriting, when do you know that the song is done and there's nothing else to do to it?
I mean, I try to get a meat and potatoes approach. Solo's usually the last thing I write, and I wait until everything else is tight, because that just makes my job a lot easier. If everybody behind me is locked in, then I don't have to worry about what I'm doing other than playing, my best as I can in the moment. But yeah, so far it's been kind of like I'll do a rough demo of something and then present it to the rest of the band. We haven't done like a jam session, writing session per se, but we're growing to that now that we have a solid lineup. We are still trying out for a rhythm guitar / second lead position. So if you know anybody in the area out there in the internet land looking for a serious gig, definitely hit us up. But we've got a couple of prospects and hopefully be able to solidify something along the lines of a finalized lineup before the end of the summer. So looking forward to that.
So when it comes to looking for that second guitarist,
hmm
what's the most important thing about that potential person?
Well, I think in general, you know, none of us are in our 20s anymore. So the hardcore boozing and drugging and fucking and all that, that's got to go out the window. Most of us, other than a little bit of weed and a little bit of beer once in a while, I'm definitely not going to tolerate any hard stuff. But I think the most important thing is, for the most part, the members of this band have all known each other for at least 10, 15 years. Our drummer Lauren, her fiance Tyler, is our bass player, and he was the only guy in the group that really didn't have any connection to all of us. So it's kind of a tight knit family at this point. So you got to be able to be flexible. You got to be able to be open minded. And I'm certainly not any kind of dictator whatsoever when it comes to what goes on in the band. But at the end of the day, you know, I still try to captain the ship as much as I can.
Awesome.
But we all pretty much have an understanding, and there's no bullshit because we're just all too fucking old for that.
When you do the set list, is the temptation always there to add a cover song?
See, and this is probably going to get me in a little hot water, but with the amount of cover bands that are infesting the scene in general, like I predominantly don't book cover bands because to me it's like legalized theft. You're getting paid to get money off of somebody else's work, and I understand that covers have their place and whatnot, but it's kind of BS to me that somebody that spends their hard-earned money and put their blood, sweat, and tears into a product is getting paid chump change next to what a cover band brings in. You know, I'm lucky if we make $200 or $300 a night on a good night, and there's some cover bands that walk into a bar now expecting to get anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800, and they're really not all that good. I mean, there's a lot of good tribute bands. Don't get me wrong, but to me, that's a whole different animal. And yeah, there's just too much of that in music right now. And I don't know what the cause of that is. I don't know whether it's just people in general just not being open to new stuff. But I think it's kind of a roller coaster. You see that come back and fade away and come back again, and I think it's just par for the course in the business at this point, especially with having so much music at our fingertips at all times. I think people have a hard time focusing on anything. And, I've got Spotify too, and, it's convenient and whatnot, but it's not really good for original bands at this point. And, hopefully we start seeing that even out so that everybody wins.
Yeah, I remember the guy from Striper saying, if we start a Striper cover band, we would probably make more money.
Yeah, isn't that bullshit? Like,
same.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all.
Me neither.
And I'm definitely not a note for note guy when it comes to covers in general. Like if you're playing the riff wrong, that's one thing. But like, it's so hard to emulate note for note exactly what these guys have played because that's why they got so big. It was individual talent unique to that individual. Dime especially. You don't see too many Pantera cover bands that can really pull it off 100%. I myself can't do it, and I've been playing for 20 plus years. And so I just think it's too bad that this is kind of the state of things at the moment when it comes to bands trying to make it. I mean, I'm not saying it's got to be the early '90s, late '80s again when Party Central and Year of the Rock Star, but there's got to be some kind of happy medium where people are doing enough to make a living again. I mean, you guys see dudes like Five Finger Death Punch that do well, but compared to where it was maybe 10, 15 years ago, it's still not drawing even on a regular national tour because people are just so set in their ways and laid back about stuff. It's like I miss that passion in metal that you don't only really see that now more so in Europe than the States. So, I mean, that's definitely a bucket list thing for me is to get across the pond and get to where people really appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah, like we have um, a Metal Summit alumni, Illusions of Grandeur, that are actually going to Europe now to actually play there for like the first time. And we kind of see a lot of bands like the Kick and Valentinas, the '80s classic bands.
Right.
They go to Europe twice a year because that's where they make their money.
Exactly.
When they tour the U.S., they make money off of merch.
Yeah. And, especially being on a fixed income like I am, it's hard to get everybody because we all have full-time jobs still. We're just, we're pulling the 4-day run weekend warrior thing because that's all anybody can afford right now to make it worthwhile. And I think these are the things that aren't talked about enough on shows and in general. I think a lot of people just assume that, bands like Godsmack and all that, that's what everybody's making money wise all the time. And that's definitely not the case. Even for guys that have sold out arenas and gone multi platinum, like it's just not happening. And I think some of that is fear based, some of that's economics. And I think it's also a culture thing. I think
Right.
the US as a country has gone away from the rebellious in a healthy way. That's just my opinion. Um, and I think, our principles as a society have changed. And, that comes with time and everything comes back around. I just keep my fingers crossed that the rest of the world wakes up.
And here is one question, and I'm going to throw this tour as an example. Metallica's out on tour,
Mhm.
opening acts, Limp Bizkit, Pantera, where they could easily, in each market, have local bands
Yes.
opening acts.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely agree with and that the business really needs to take into consideration because there's a lot of talent out there that is buried under poverty and money financial issues that I've seen bands that I've just come back and played out with within the last year or so that should be opening for Killswitch and same with me. Like I think once we get this lineup solidified, there's no reason I shouldn't be playing with guys like Trivium.
Yeah.
I feel like I've paid my dues long enough. We all have. I mean, we're all veterans in the business, with the exception of our bass player. He's the only rookie in the group. But, you know, it's just frustrating where you see so much of this monopolized. And I don't know whether it's the bookers. I don't know if it's the labels. I'm not really sure where this is coming from. But, if Metallica or Trivium or Killswitch comes around, Boston or even Worcester, like they should automatically be looking for, okay, who's doing the work in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe not who's got the amount of social media followers, but who's really delivering on the product. And I think that's often overlooked right now.
Absolutely. Angel, let me chime in real quick. We've actually, yeah, because Josh, we've actually had this conversation quite a few times on TMS about, opening bands and bands on tours and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've always been very like on my soapbox about, because I really do believe it, and it's not meant to be like petty, it's not meant to be like, rude, but it just is the way I feel. And it's what I'm a big actions speak louder than the words kind of guy. And I do think that actions are in this situation are screaming. And the example that I've been using most recently is Kiss, because I do believe that unfortunately, as much as I love our music and I love our genre, we are our worst gatekeepers at the same time.
That's true. Yeah.
Like I've said, I use Kiss currently in my example. They played Baltimore, the last show before the 2 New York shows that closed out the farewell tour. And so me and my wife, we went to the show, and it was great. We had a great time. The opening band was a band called Amber Wild, who, don't get me wrong, they were fantastic. They were a young band. They'd only been around since like January, and this show was it was like October, I think, October, November. Anyway, late in the year. And don't get me wrong, sounded great, looked the part, very skilled musicians, great sound. Now, what a lot of people either knew going in or found out, the singer in that band, as well, and lead and guitar player in that band, was Evan Stanley, who, if anybody's not familiar, that's Paul's kid.
Yeah.
And again, I really enjoyed their set. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't. I go back to some of Evan's early bands like the Dives, who I thought were great. I know how talented he is.
Yeah.
But for something like that, it's one thing for Amber Wild to be on the tour as the tour support for Kiss on their farewell tour. Cool. God bless them. No argument here. And it could have only been 25 minutes if there was a Baltimore band that could have gone on. I don't care if it was 15 minutes after doors. At least some people would have been there, and it would have allowed the opportunity for, people to see this band, open for Kiss. That's what I just wish there's more of, just like you said. It's like the national acts, they need a local band every time. And sometimes some of these tours do drive me a little batty, because it'll be like a giant package deal of like 5-6 bands that are all traveling to different cities, which, don't get me wrong, I love that. That's awesome.
Right.
But also times are changing as well too, where I kind of call it like the gnat or the hey squirrel attitude that people have is like, and the fact that the bottom line is people have families, they are working people, and late nights can be very trying at times, where I feel like tours, the actual tour package needs to be no more than 3 bands, and that 4th band should be that local band. And it's just not happening enough. Right. I'm not saying that Kiss needed to pluck a Baltimore band to go on the entire tour, but there's enough very talented bands like TMS alumni Silvertongue would have done very well on that show. Same when Kiss played Jersey, there's local Jersey bands that I know Angel knows very well that'd be like, damn, this band would have done great opening up for Kiss. And just like you said, Dead Man's Trigger opening up for a Trivium, a Kill Switch Engage, maybe not necessarily an Aerosmith, and that's not a knock.
Right.
Just stylistically, you don't.
Yeah. Right.
But Godsmack, absolutely, something like that. Where if Godsmack's going out with like the Butcher Babies, I'm using that as an example because they have toured together, or New Year's Day. But for the Worcester show, hey, there's got to be a local band that's putting foot to ass and foot to pavement that would work. Yes, there definitely needs to be definitely more than that. So, off my little soapbox and right back to you, Angel.
Oh, your wife says hello. Okay.
There she is. Hey, my love. I love you, baby.
Yeah, mine's in the other room smoking a bowl.
I'm single, so
Yeah, but that's what allows you to enjoy all the titties of the world, Angel.
yeah. I feel like the Metal Summit's my girlfriend. That's who I give my time.
There you go. Well, next time I'll do my hair better.
Yeah, I got mine tied back. It's all fucking undercover.
So when it comes to the set list, how do you decide which songs to play?
I mean, right now, like I said, we're kind of just keeping what the first demo had for the. I mean, we did 7 songs, so it's more like an EP. Um, but and we're trying to incorporate this next show coming up at the end of June. We've got in Worcester. We're going to be doing 2 new singles that haven't even been released yet. Hopefully, getting those out by the end of August at the very latest. But yeah, so we're fine tuning all this stuff, and when we had that 5th member leave, kind of threw a bit of a unbalance in the apple cart, shall we say. So we kind of slowed down a little bit just to kind of get our bearings and figure out what we wanted to do. But so far, you know, without having backing tracks, some of it does suffer a little bit as far as quality goes. But we're just changing how we're writing right now to because we've only got me on guitar at the moment. But I think by the time this whole batch of material comes out, we should be back to full strength.
What made you wanna pick up a guitar?
Well, I've actually enjoyed being able to tell this story because it's kind of funny. Um, when I was 10 years old, my grandfather was retiring as a chief of police in town. I live in Sterling, which is a famous town of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And so, yeah, that's about all the notoriety we got. But so we had a retirement party for him, and a couple of guys that had a cover band for the party. Um, that was really like my first experience of like a live rock band. And some of the guys were actually local and went to high school with my mom. And so, they're taking a break between sets, and I'm over there. And of course, me being me, I wasn't shy. So I just said, hey, it was great. Like, the famous line was, I wonder if they make guitars small enough for me to handle. And I shit you not even probably about 2 weeks after the party, I get a knock on the door, and there's the whole band and family in tow with a half-size Flying V. I mean, it was basically a toy, but that's what I got started on. And the rest is, as they say, history. I graduated into 7/8 scale, so a full-size neck with a 3/4 body on it, and started. I took about 6 months of lessons, and the rest of it was kind of figuring out by ear and learning from my buddies and shit like that. And now here I am. So that's how that started.
That's awesome.
So besides guitar, is there any other instrument that you play?
I mean, I bust on my bass player's balls fucking all the time about this, but once you learn guitar, you can pretty much play bass. So I got a 7/8 scale bass that I use in the studio. If I'm doing any solo project stuff. Um, I've got a pretty good mind when it comes to writing drums. Obviously, not the physical capability, but I use things like Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer. Um, Shout out to Tune Track; those guys have completely changed my life. Being able to write without a full band and have a whole picture together before it even gets started was a huge help in progressing my ability to compose. So I enjoy doing stuff like that. Producing my own stuff, and now I'm branching out into working with new bands in the area now that I have a functioning studio. Still in the process of wrapping up construction, but we should be able to have a grand opening by July. So I'm excited about that.
And I'll ask you again, just to be respectful of your time. I'm asking you just one last question, and then kick it up to Jay. How did you end up on Curtain Call Records?
Well, funny little story. I don't know if you guys have chatted with him, but the band Nightfall, ring a bell?
I know their name for sure.
Yeah. Keith Dombrowski is my childhood best friend, and he was the founder of that project. They don't have a live band yet, but he's big into symphonic metal. He does a lot of keyboards and vocals and all that kind of stuff. So he released an album about a year or two ago, and got in touch with Metal Devastation and Curtain Call Records, and we've jammed for years and written things with each other, and he's roadied for my bands over the years and vice versa. So when he got the opportunity to get on Curtain Call, he literally said to John, he's like, "Hey man, I've got my buddy, he's in a wheelchair and he's been doing the real thing for God knows how long, opening for bands like Static X and Power Man 5000. 2012, my first band opened up for Cedar, Puddle of Mud, Buck Cherry, Black Stone Cherry, and Power Man 5000 within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Talk about a culture shock and feeling like I finally hit the big time. Just being able to do that and say I did that was good enough for me. It's more about the experience for me. I'm trying to get as much out of life as I possibly can, despite my circumstance, and trying to inspire others to do the same. So I think, I hope I'm doing a good job of that, and I hope to do more.
Awesome, brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a conversation about a month after he spoke with John, and it was a late night phone call between him and I, probably about 10:30 at night my time, and he goes, "Yeah, man, we know you're on a limited budget, and fortunately at the time, thankfully, my wife decided to invest in me in a whole different way, and she helped finance our first contract with them. And I've become a member of the Curtain Call family, and now I'm working part-time off the books as A&R rep for them up here, and we're hoping to turn Speed Demon Promotions into a satellite label for recruiting for them in the next year or two. So keep your eyes peeled for that."
Nice.
Awesome, and like I said, you could definitely count us in as one of your supporters. Like any
Oh,
bands.
absolutely. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I also write a column for Ballbuster Music,
Okay.
just for the sake of doing media for your shows releases.
Yep.
Definitely have you on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
And do a final fan question from Brian, who
Our
wants to know what pisses you off.
Geez, we could be here all night. No, I'm kidding. People that bitch about a situation and don't do anything about it to change it. Like I said, I was born with 14 broken bones, and I'm out here melting faces on stage because I make it happen. It takes a village to make it go, and I'm very grateful to the people that I have supporting me and allowing me to facilitate my dream. But I think anybody that lets circumstance dictate what they're going to do in life, and anybody that judges anyone for doing exactly that by overcoming that, or trying to put their best foot forward, any naysayers, any haters out there, like, here's one to you, man. Like, you're not going to get anything different out of me. I'm here to prove everybody wrong and to give people hope.
Well,
So that's what pisses me off the most. Doubters.
I'm definitely not ever complaining about having Crohn's disease. So.
I mean, it's shitty after all, but hey.
You're right about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, back up to Jay since we're at the 1 hour mark already.
Right on, man. That an hour that felt like 10 minutes, but that just allows us to have you back on for a follow-up episode sometime, Josh, for sure.
I'd
man.
love to. I had a blast, guys.
Do that. Before we let you go, can you let us know what you and Dead Man's Trigger have planned for the rest of 2025? Of course, based on what you're allowed to announce. You had mentioned the Halloween show as well, but what can we look forward to from the band for the rest of this year?
We've got Summer Solstice Shred Fest at the Raven in Worcester, June 21st. And then we do a matinee show July 13th at Alchemy in Providence. We're taking August off to focus on studio stuff. And then we'll be hitting the pavement until the snow flies from there on. Nothing set in stone other than being in Worcester for Halloween, but we're hoping to get into New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine as well. We've already hit Connecticut a couple weeks ago. So making our rounds regionally, and then hopefully beginning of next year, start to head south in Jersey's direction. So we're working on getting down that way and getting into New York, and because I've never been to New York City. I've the only place I've traveled to outside of New England has been DC and Florida when I was a kid, but that was it. So I'm ready to pound the pavement and meet people and start. The one thing of playing New England for as long as I have, that wow factor is not quite there as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
People are used to me. They're used to what I do. They're used to seeing me at shows in general. And I think, it's going to be a lot of fun getting back to feeling like I'm brand new at this again. And, like I said, inspiring people and just changing people's minds.
Absolutely, for sure. Angel, looks like we've got a fun follow-up question there from Brian that's making me laugh.
It's making me laugh at the spelling.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I know
the
what
lack of vowels. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. The only time it really gets coming out with me, if I've had a little too much whiskey or whatever, I start going, wow, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. Stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm a bit of a redneck, so you don't hear that much out of me. I'm definitely not a city boy, so. But I love Boston. I love Boston people. Boston metal scene's good. Could be better, but it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Massachusetts, Taxachusetts.
Go Sox.
Go Sox. In stereo, bro. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely the stereotypical New England sports fan. And I'm not even that big of a sports nut in general, but I definitely support where it's needed.
For sure, man. No, absolutely. Right. And one final thing before we let you go for the evening, because I'm looking. I've been on the merch site, and I love the fact that you guys have a T-shirt for that like Plague Doctor design that I said that I liked. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking up one of those. But please let everybody know where Dead Man's Trigger can be found on socials. So
basically, everything you can think of. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify. You name it, we're there. The original rough demo of Symptoms of Creation is on SoundCloud for $5. If you want to go, that helps. I can't even log into the damn thing anymore, but it's there. So yeah, keep an eye out for new releases coming this summer, and we hope to see you at a city near you.
Absolutely, man. Well, Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. We really appreciate some of your time and getting to rock out and have such a cool conversation about everything from overcoming the ailments, which you had mentioned is always something that you like to be able to let people know that, that positive things can happen, and you can make things happen despite situations you had to overcome, which is super duper awesome. So we definitely appreciate some of your time. Absolutely, man.
Well, I look forward to being back on here and chat with you guys.
Definitely. We'll definitely make that happen for sure. Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. Dead Man's Trigger fans, thank you guys so much. You guys are always awesome. Like I said at the top, it's incredibly important, and this show exists because of you guys. You've shown so much love and affection and attention to what Angel and I and Steve do to get to have these great conversations, and we look forward to having many, many more. I mean, this is episode 301. I mean, that's crazy, that's really, really nuts. So the fact that last week we had our 300th episode is amazing. And now we're on episode 301 with Josh and Dead Man's Trigger, which is so awesome. So again, Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. Make sure that you're following Angel at Angel Alamo 78 on Instagram. You can also find him on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Salem.vampire, but you can also find me on Facebook under Salem Vampire as well. And Josh laid it out for you guys. Make sure you're following Dead Man's Trigger on all of their socials, so you know when they're touring, when they're working in the studio, and how you can see them, and any type of merch that you guys can get, whether it's the SoundCloud album or like a t-shirt, is always going to benefit the band in all kinds of ways. Please, guys, also as well, make sure that you guys are following the Metal Summit on Facebook as well as YouTube. That's where you're watching Josh right now. And also make sure that you're following us on Instagram as well, because that's where the guest announcements come out first. So whenever you're curious about who we're bringing on, that's the best place that you can go to quickly and see immediately who's coming on. So again, Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. We're going to let Josh relax for the rest of his evening, and we can't wait to have him on in a future episode. But have yourselves an absolutely great rest of your week and a killer weekend. Over the weekend, we'll get confirmation and the guest announcement for next week's episode. So we will see you guys in a week. Have yourselves an absolutely great rest of your week. Like I said, take care. Myself, Angel, and Dead Man's Trigger are signing off for the evening. And also, as a throw out there too as well, please make sure that you're following our beloved Psycho Steve at The Real Psycho Steve on Instagram or PsychoStevePresents.com. But take care, Metal Summoners. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and keep the horns up when it comes to supporting heavy metal music. We love you guys. As always, you've been watching the